Welcome to Empowered by AI, the podcast for women entrepreneurs ready to harness AI to take their businesses to the next level. I'm your host, Michelle Muncie Silva, founder of Innovative AI Studios. You may have left corporate life to start this entrepreneurial journey, but you don't have to go it alone. Here, you'll find a supportive community of like-minded women and an invaluable thought partner each week, as my guests and I share actionable insights you can use right away. So let's dive in together. And I am so glad to be speaking with you today. I am really very interested in learning more about your work with branding, and I think it's going to be incredibly helpful to the listeners too. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And thanks to Deanna for introducing us so we can have this conversation today.
She's so amazing. And if you haven't had a chance to catch Deanna Leonard yet, we're going to have an episode with her as well. So she connected Van and I. So very grateful for that. So Van, I want to talk to you because branding is really your house of expertise. And it's such a beautiful support for entrepreneurs. And you actually describe branding as architecting a legacy. And I love that. Can you share a little bit about what that means for you and how entrepreneurs, small business owners can adopt this mindset while they're building their own brand?
Absolutely. Yeah, to me, architecting a legacy really means being intentional about building something that's going to endure beyond those trends that you see that won't last very long. So being strategic about having all of the pieces that you need to fully be operational and consistent so that you can build that trust with new audiences, especially if you're new to the market. You don't want to lose people along the way when you're not doing a great job of, let's say, shaping that perception. So you have to keep in mind, it's not just what's online, it's how you come off when they meet you in person, that process that you have in place from when they meet you to the actual closing of the deal. And is designing that identity that's not only going to drive revenue, but stands for something much greater. Because oftentimes when people buy your product or your service, they're not just buying what you have to offer. They have to feel some kind of connection with you. So for a lot of the solopreneurs and small business owners, this means shifting that mindset from that short-term mindset for just getting that sales or visibility to thinking about longevity and how their brand will be perceived in 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years down the line. And the key is defining what are your core values? What's your purpose? And your positioning early on. So that's not just about how your brand looks and the aesthetics, but crafting that reputation that's going to grow in value over time. And I meet a lot of people that miss out on opportunities because they didn't maximize on an existing opportunity by thinking strategic about how can I then continue to leverage the opportunities that do come my way. So it's not just a one and done type of scenario.
Yeah. And I think there are so many I include myself in this. I do. I'm guilty of it as well, that you oftentimes think of branding as, okay, I've got my logo, I picked my colors, and I'm really curious how you define a true, what you would consider to be a true branding strategy. Like, what do you think? Obviously, logo, color scheme got brought up, but what do you think are some of those most overlooked elements?
Yeah, I mean, before I even get to the brand strategy, I like to know, did you do your homework already? Do you have a business plan in place? And even if it's not a comprehensive business plan, it could be a one-pager or a vision traction organizer. I don't know if you're familiar with Gino Wickman's entrepreneurial operating system. I love how he's all about building systems so that you don't burn out, for one, and things are running smoothly, right? Your operations are running smoothly. So before I even get to that brand discovery interview or that brand discovery workbook, they need to already have a clear vision of, like, why are you doing this? Why are you launching this? What drove you to do this? And do you have a clear vision of where you want it to go? Do you want to grow a team later on? Do you plan to expand into other territories? So that's really important. I notice that people who don't have a clear vision they struggle with the brand strategy component and have trouble filling out their workbook because they haven't done their homework. So they're figuring out who's your customers, what category do you want to be known in, what are the current trends in the industry, what are your who's your competition, and you won't believe how many people don't realize who their competition really is. For instance, I had a gym say, well, we're a family-owned gym, so 24-hour fitness, LA Fitness is not a competitor. If you think about the audience, the customer is not going to invest in both gyms. They're only going to invest into one. So technically, they are a competitor, right? And doing that niche assessment is also really helpful because when you might think you want to market to an audience, and then when we dive in to figure out, is there enough problems for you to solve? Do you have enough expertise to talk about this and be an expert in it? Do they have the money to afford your services? Are they accessible? Is there conferences, podcasts, media events, or organizations or support in that space, whether it's like medical or dental or any of the different type of niches that you're looking to market to? And the other thing is to make it sustainable. Do you like it? Do you like working in, let's say, HVAC or working with pets or whatever, whoever it is that you're looking to market to? And is there enough opportunity there? Meaning, is it too hyper saturated? I worked with a client when we launched, there was well over 60 competitors in his very small mile radius alone. So we have to think about if you're doing online marketing and yeah, you get in front of people, but are you going to be able to convert them when you only have 0 reviews or 1 review online, right? Then you have to switch your tactic and think, do I have to market in a different geographic area because it's too saturated? Is it a good time for you to enter the space? Because timing does matter. And then, of course, thinking about the trend, is this like an industry, like a growing market? And if it's dying out, you don't want to be entering at the wrong time. So that I do even before we get to the brand strategy. And then once we dive in, it's okay, let's get all that information together and develop that brand DNA so that one, you're clear on defining who you are or your organization, why you exist, and what makes you different, right? What results can you get people and what behaviors do you have to carry out consistently to fulfill to help them get those results. And so it's like your guiding compass to all your brand decisions, because a lot of times I'll meet with people and they'll make decisions that isn't really in alignment with their goals. But it's an opportunity that they see and they're afraid of the fear of missing out. So they're like, I'm going to take this on, but they're moving sideways rather than up the ladder. And so I remember my leadership coach was telling me, every decision you make needs to be intentional and it needs to be driving you up the ladder, not sideways. And when you're starting out and you're by yourself, you don't have the luxury and the time to be spread out in too many areas. And I think a lot of times people make the mistake of doing too much marketing to everybody, and then they burn out or they don't have the resources to market to everyone because the conversions are going to be lower. So understanding like your market, your competitors, and your unique advantage, that positioning is so powerful. When you talk to people, they'll remember you. It's like, I'm a health coach that helps everybody improve their health versus I'm a health coach that helps women after giving birth lose weight in a realistic, not so perfect way, right? That's going to stick to them when they think of somebody who might need to lose weight after they just gave birth. They're going to refer to that person. So there's a lot of that customer psychology speaking to the emotions and the motivations behind the decisions, not just the demographics, but it's how do people remember how you make them feel? And that's what drives a lot of these decisions for them to invest into you is, okay, what's the desired result? What are they desiring? And so that messaging and that storytelling to tie you in as an expert is so important. And that gets woven into that brand strategy. So for instance, and stop me if I'm like going too fast.
You're doing great.
Okay, awesome. I spoke to someone who was marketing to everyone, but when I uncover his story, his backstory, what was your background? Where did you start it off? And I realized, oh, he's a tech guy. He's in IT. I'm like, why don't you try marketing to people who are looking to build tech teams, IT teams? You speak the language. You're an expert at it. Because I asked him, like, what's your background in staffing and recruiting? There was none. So I'm like, that doesn't strengthen your positioning as an expert in staffing, right? And if I'm going to hire a staffing agency for my, let's say, branding agency or marketing agency, I'm going to go look for an expert who does staffing specifically for a marketing agency because they understand my pain points. I feel like they're speaking to me when I see their ad. And so I weave that part in, and that becomes part of your sales process. So when you meet with people, it's going to stick in their mind even more that there's something relevant there between their experience in the past and what they're doing now to help you, even if they're entering a completely new space. But there's a way to tie in things that you've done before to position yourself better.
I think that you're talking about with your particular business, Brand Concier, right? You're really talking about some key brand DNA elements that have to be teased out before you can even get to the brand strategy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. And I think that's what is so vital to consider is that it's not just a logo. It's not just, I love these colors. It's what's the entire psychology behind why you do what you do and how do you translate that to your ideal customer.
100%. Exactly. And like I said, even if I have your website up, your social media is up, when you're doing your sales, it needs to add up. You can't be selling something that you're not providing. You're going to lose trust along the way. And that does run into problems later on because you can't grow. You're going to hit a roadblock, or you actually is going the opposite. Why are you wanting to build your business? You're going the other way. Yeah.
Yeah. And see, that's where I think someone really looking at the expertise that you're providing is going to be giving themselves that boost, right? Because you specialize in AI powered personal branding. So, how can solopreneurs capitalize on AI in order to build that more authentic, compelling brand that moves beyond those basic things that I brought up?
Yeah. AI is a really great tool. It can certainly expedite and save time, like using it for brand management, for instance, even so that you have some idea. And it's great for concepting. I love using it just to bounce ideas and see what it comes up with. It's not always on point. Sometimes, because I know the market and I understand the process and I've done some homework, sometimes it's off. But as long as I input the right data and information, it could give me some really good output with it. So it's just managing doing the brand strategy with it. It's more for the concepting of what kind of brand identities would fit for this target audience, for instance, work with the services I'm trying to sell. And it does take a little bit of training it sometimes and plugging in enough information so that you can train it to give you a good response that will help you. But I love how it can spit out a lot of different brand identities as you're building out your personal brand or even your business brand to figure out, okay, do I want it to be more of an Art Deco minimalist, which is the direction we're going in? And is it going to fit is it going to appeal to our target demographic with that? On the more maintenance side, it definitely helps brands maintain consistency with their voice. Yeah, as they're continuing to use their brand on a day to day.
Mhm. I love the fact that you bring up sometimes it gets things wrong. I think it's super important to provide the context and the work that you're talking about doing, that work behind the scenes of really helping someone tease out what's going on and what motivates them and what's moving their brand forward. That's context, right? You're really
Yes.
helping them set themselves up for success.
Absolutely. It's great for research too. Like Perplexity is amazing for market research. It really helps speed up that process when you're doing market research to just figure out like where you're doing your niche assessment. That's what I use Perplexity for. It gives me cites the sources too, which is great. So I know it's coming from a credible source, or if it's not, I can check. But it gives me the stats that I need, like how many, for instance, I'm working with a brand right now that's marketing to people who are undergoing kidney transplant. And on the donor side and the recipient, I can then pull that data to see, is this a good niche to market to? What is the statistics? How many people in the US are undergoing kidney transplants or having kidney issues? And are there any solutions out there? So it does help with that process to vet out and eliminate some ideas that might not work.
And
Yeah.
I'm wondering, I'm really curious because I'm hearing how you're using it in bits and pieces to help people really address certain problems. How do you see AI playing a role in branding 5 years from now, say? Do you think AI could take it over, or do you think human creativity is going to really stay at the center of it all?
I think human creativity is going to stay. I think AI can be used in a lot of ways to save time and money. It cuts down on the inefficiencies in your business, and it's great for that. So I feel like it can be AI, like there's an AI driven efficiency with that. And I can be in more places without spreading myself than using AI, like with the custom GPTs, right? I can create a custom GPT for the brand to then prompt ask it questions if I'm not available, as long as I plug in all the answers already ahead of time. And they can leverage that in their business to run it, let's say, with their marketing manager without having to bring in like a brand manager. But as in terms of creativity, there is still a really big gap. And I was fortunate enough to be attend Jeff Orderman, who's the director at Pentel, and he was previously a director of marketing at Coca-Cola. He put on a workshop about AI and the difference between that and human creativity. And he showed us the difference in the replies, or like how the result of a human's response versus AI. And there was still a significant difference with that. So I wouldn't want to solely rely on that, but using it as a tool to help speed things up is great. Even like writing your social media captions, you can create these amazing avatar videos if you don't want to be the person shooting, filming. The cost of production is expensive. I know because I used to put together a team to shoot videos for a YouTuber or a music artist, and we had to hire a makeup artist, a wardrobe stylist, a hairstylist, a videographer, photographer, and pay for the venue. So imagine you can cut down on all that cost and just use AI to create high quality videos for your marketing. And then with people using it for even copywriting, I know there's that fear of, are people going to be out of jobs because AI is taking over? I think it's just more of shifting to adapt to the new technology.
Yeah. And you've helped businesses so much with your work. You've helped them sell out events, you've helped them grow communities. You've even, I want to talk to you about this one, hit #1 spots on Apple Podcasts, right? And so, what are some of the common branding mistakes that you see holding entrepreneurs back from reaching those kinds of milestones?
Yeah, I think overanalyzing, not moving fast enough. And that's why I enjoy working with fast thinking entrepreneurs. They know what they want and they move on it. When you're stuck in this perfectionism because you're like, oh, this is not perfect, I need to keep working on it, you're missing out on opportunities when you're sitting there mulling it over for too long. So even when I worked with my clients to get them onto Forbes or Huffington Post or Sports Illustrated, I made sure to support the journalists. I'll engage with them first. I'll like their content. I'll share their content if I like it. And when I do reach out, I have something to say other than I need something from you. I'd be like, I've been reading your column and I really love what you wrote about XYZ. And I have this opportunity that came my way that I thought you might be interested in. Would you be open to covering it? And so that I noticed that it's about adding more empathy in the relationship building and just putting yourself in their shoes. Like, how would you feel if you were in their shoes? And make sure that you respond or react in a way that you would like other people to treat you. Going back to the basics of treat people how you want to be treated and building
It's
that
so
trust.
It's so interesting to me that you say that and that you lead from this stance of empathy, because I was literally just having this conversation the other day that I was talking with a gentleman, and he was asked, what's one of the things that you feel is lacking that we
Mhm.
need more of? And the first thing he said was empathy. So I just find it so timely that you brought that up. You're not alone in recognizing the value of that.
Yeah, I think with technology too, people are moving away from that human connection and
Mhm.
they're spending more time on their devices rather than let's engage with each other and the people in front of you.
And I think too, I think we all need to consider it because we do get very focused on our
Mhm.
particular perspective, per se. So I think it's very interesting that empathy takes the lead because, of course, you need that when you're considering brand strategy because it's not necessarily about you. As much as you might be your ideal customer, we still need that ability to consider the needs and empathize with the span of the niche, if you will, right?
Absolutely.
And for entrepreneurs that you see struggling with, say, for example, brand positioning, what are
Mhm.
those steps that you feel they should take to help them define a competitive advantage?
Yeah, like defining your unique value proposition, right? Like knowing what makes you different. Some people think they're different and new, and then when I do research, I'm like, nope, there's oh, you're getting to the biometric space. Okay, do you know how many biometric brands there are out there that's monitoring your HRV and your temperature and your sleep cycle? There's like the Aura Ring, and there's BioStrap, and then there's Whoop, and I can list a whole list of things, and they didn't have the answer. So if you're out selling to people, even if you're looking for an investor or you're looking for people to open up their wallets to you, they have to really see the value to invest in you. And so doing that homework is really important and knowing what's already out there and what problem are you solving that's not currently being solved. And it could just be your brand experience that's different, right? Like one podcaster might have a different personality altogether and cover the same topics on ADHD than another podcaster who's also covering ADHD, but maybe they're speaking to entrepreneurs versus the other one speaking to like the everyday mom, or like mothers, right? They have a different approach. And so that helps position them differently. So that makes them unique. Maybe they have a different take on ADHD. So identifying that ideal audience and those emotional triggers for your audience is really important in helping with that brand positioning and that core brand message. Having that one compelling sentence, like I help fast thinking entrepreneurs build timeless brands. And so when I use the word fast thinking, I notice that automatically their face lights up if I'm talking to the right person. They're like, oh my gosh, that's me. So they feel connected to you. Already there's rapport, right? It's mirroring in a sense where
Mhm.
you do a little bit of homework to figure out their background so that when you go into a meeting, you can speak their language. And that's the same thing with brand positioning. So like Liquid Death, they're really unique in their packaging, right? They took a bold risk and they're very
That brand is
strategic.
incredible.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting Peter Fan. He was the incubator for his company was the incubator for Liquid Death, and so he did a talk about that. And he explained that the reason why they did it that way is because it's a conversation starter. So if you went to a party and you saw someone hold that can, you're going to wonder, what are they drinking? What is that? It just piques your curiosity. And it becomes something that breaks the ice. So that's how it started for them, where they're like, that's why we did it that way, because it is different. And even the way they name their drinks, it ties into their brand theme. If the whole death skull, if you look at
Yeah,
the names of
exactly. I
their
can
drinks,
picture it in my head as you're talking about it.
yeah, and
That's
even
the
their
power of
commercials.
that.
Exactly, and people remember that, and they take it with them, and they market to a lot of like a lot of rock concerts. They sponsor a lot of those. So that goes back to your brand DNA. Like, who are you marketing to? And then you have to make those strategic moves that make sense, and it makes sense for them to do that. I'm not a fan of throwing spaghetti against the wall and seeing what sticks. So even when it comes down to that, the tactical solutions for marketing, you also have to think about how much money you have to start with, resources wise, before you start investing so much money into branding. I'm not a fan of, hey, throw $50,000 into branding and you'll be fine. You have to be able to do sales. You have to have enough money for marketing. Because if you put all your money into branding and then you get to market and you don't have enough funds to market yourself, your brand's going to die faster than you know it. And that happens with so many people. I had a friend that put $50,000 in from the money she earned working a corporate job to launch her clothing line, and then shortly after went out of business. And it was a shame because I really loved the fabric she used. She was very intentional about everything. There was a lot of storytelling, but I think there wasn't enough for marketing. And sales is the lifeblood of your business. So you can have all the branding in the world, but if you and you can't close them, even if you attracted them in the beginning, then you're not going to stay in business. And so when you're doing all this stuff and going to market, there's so much to learn. And I think as new entrepreneurs, a lot of times we don't know what we're getting ourselves into and where they need to start. And there's so many branding people out there. There's salespeople calling themselves brand builders. There's public speakers who are now personal brand experts. So when people come to me, they get confused. They're like, so what's the difference between you and all these other people? And so it's
Yeah.
important to ask, what's their background? What's their training? What's their angle in branding to identify whether or not they're the right fit for you?
Mhm. And your expertise spans corporate branding, personal branding. How does the approach differ for solopreneurs versus established larger businesses?
Oh yeah, it's massively different. There's a lot more that goes into the business branding because it's not you're not just interjecting yourself in the brand. And sometimes it's not entirely. I know people talk about authenticity in branding. And yeah, you might have a little bit of yourself, but if every part of you doesn't make sense to your target demographic, you might not want to interject that part of you into it. So you do have to be objective. I say one of the biggest mistakes I see is that solopreneurs get too attached to the brand. And at the end of the day, like sometimes people are very heart driven and they don't step back to think, okay, what does my audience need? What do they want from me? And what can I provide, obviously, to them? But with a personal brand, it's a lot easier because oftentimes I'm working with a good baseline. If they already know who they are and they have a personality, I can work with that. Then it's okay, we already got your brand voice down. I talked to a guy and knew right away during the interview process, oh, he's like a jester when it comes to brand archetype because he's really funny in the way he responds. Well, let's put a little bit of that into your brand. But his main archetype is the superhero archetype because the happy haulers are there to help you alleviate your stress and remove that junk. And then they have a guide who is there to guide you along your journey. So we position him more as like the superhero archetype with a little bit of jester. So that's one way I can interject them into their business brand without it being all about them. If you're not planning to be a Tony Robbins and you want other people to train under you and talk to your audience or your clients or handle interface with your clients, you don't want to be the sole face of your company. That's one mistake people make is that when they want to grow, they can't because everybody wants that person. I had somebody reach out to me about that saying, everybody wants me, but I want them to book a time with my clinician who works for us, not always booking with me. So I can go on vacation. I can leave without feeling like I need to be part of every aspect of the brand. If that's something that you enjoy and you love being part of the limelight, then it works. But even Tony Robbins struggles with that because people who study under him, people who book time, they want Tony Robbins. They don't want his apprentice. Yeah.
So I'm curious as we reflect on that for just a moment, what is one piece of advice if you were looking at a female entrepreneur who's launching her brand today? What is one piece of advice that you'd give her?
Honestly, own your expertise. Specializing will help you grow much faster and dominate a space so much quicker it's building that continue to build your brand. Take a day out of the week to do that, whether it is to update your website with a new testimonial or getting onto another platform, a directory listing to establish your reputation. Don't just take it day by day. Really think ahead a few steps as you're building your brand. A lot of times people get busy in the busyness of the day-to-day that they neglect their own brand a lot of times, and that holds them back. It actually slows your growth. Yeah, it's hard, right? It's hard. I mean, we all have challenges with that. I, at one point, had to allocate my Sunday for my brand, and Monday through Friday was for my clients because that was the only way that I could do it because I was too busy trying to do sales and wear the accounting hat and the marketing hat. So there's a lot to do in the beginning. I'd say the other thing is build that support, having a really strong support system and being surrounded by those who have different knowledge and expertise in different areas of running a business helps a lot. And I can't tell you how grateful I am to have the many mentors that I have over the years. If you have the wrong people around you constantly whispering in your ear saying negative things or don't believe in what you're doing or your vision, then you're in the wrong room. And it's good to be in a room full of people who are smarter than you. I have no problems with being the dumbest person in the room. I can't tell you, being a sponge has helped me so much. Even in my early days, I just sit there quietly listening to everybody and what they have to say so I can take it all in and learn from them. You don't have to make all your mistakes yourself.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. I love it. And what's next for Brand Concierge? You got any upcoming innovations or changes in branding that you're super excited about and taking action on?
Absolutely. We're going to be offering custom GPT services so that so companies can use it to maintain their brand voice and even generate the images they need to stay consistent without having to always have someone there to work with. Now I can stay here to support them, obviously, as providing brand support for like printing and other things, but really integrating the AI with a more high touch and strategy driven process for certain things. Leveraging off more on the brand building side, because a lot of people ask me, "Hey, can you do PR for me?" And it's not something I do anymore. But my new business partner, Jacob Kaleido, he's a PhD researcher and he has a master's degree in AI and cybersecurity, so he can secure your custom GPTs. And we're building a brand called Lab Coat and Legend. So it's an AI-driven brand designed to inspire kids to pursue STEM, like the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I'm really excited to do that. And also with Brand Concier, it's really being able to step away a little bit more and have more freedom. I will be writing for Brains Magazine in April, more on brand building for fast-thinking entrepreneurs. So that's something I'm really excited about. Working on a series of books on brand building using my framework. So I will share more with you when that time comes, but that is also in the works as well. So yeah, a couple of things.
Exciting. That's awesome.
Mhm.
I can't wait to hear more about that as that evolves for you.
Thank you.
Van, I so appreciate your time, and we have learned so much from listening to you. So really appreciate your expertise and your willingness to share it with us.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure having this conversation.
Thank you for tuning in to Empowered by AI. If today's episode sparked ideas, don't wait. Follow the link in the show notes to visit innovativeaistudio.com and download your free resource, created to help you put today's insights into practice. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes packed with more tips, tools, and inspiring stories. Until next time, stay empowered and keep innovating.